Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Newman, to approve the minutes of the February 14th, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting. Do I hear any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting, or motion carries. Okay, now, the next item is the citizens forum for agenda items only. And I'll just remind everybody that every speaker has 5 minutes. And this particular period is just for discussing items that are on our agenda this evening. So is there anybody that wants to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
Can I give you guys just a little, it's very easy to read, just look at it. So, it'll just take a second. If you want to pass this on, people can look. Linda Massarelli, 5 Pine Creek Drive. This little handout that I'm giving you, these little blurbs were in the Herald, end of February. And as you see from the, can you guys hear me? As you can see from the handout, Fox Chapel and all the other municipalities in our school district advertise anytime there's gonna be an opening on any of the boards. And Indiana Township put in the Herald that week the assignments that they gave people, that somebody picked the people to put on the boards without the public knowing about it. And don't get mad, because I'm not saying this to make anybody upset, or it's just my opinion. Everybody's a good citizen, everybody on the boards are good citizens. But it looks to me that Mr. Bloom, who lives in Mr. Jorgensen's neighborhood, was asked to move from the zoning board to the planning board. And it looks to me that a colleague of Mr. Curtis was asked to come and take his place on the zoning commission. And it looks to me that Mr. Moore, who is Mr. Crawley's neighbor, was asked to be on the planning commission. Nobody was notified, there was no advertising done. Mr. Spatz came to meetings, he talked to Mr. Anderson. He was not told there were any openings, and he was not given any consideration. I was at the planning commission meeting 2 weeks ago, and Mrs. Lucchina was not there. No one said she was resigning, no one said anything about it. Now tonight, we're gonna have a new person take her place. Nobody knew anything about it. Shouldn't our citizens have any say-so? Shouldn't anybody else be allowed to pick people who are on commissions besides the people here?
Don't include me, I wasn't contacted about my own district.
It looks like the public is being kept in the dark, and people are cherry picking who's gonna be on the commissions, and then therefore, I guess they'll all vote the same, and everything that wants to go through will get through. So I wanted to say that. Another thing, and last month with the no vote on the video streaming.
It's not on the agenda for this evening.
No, but.
No, it's not on the agenda. We're not gonna discuss it right now.
All right, the last thing I wanna say, and it's on the agenda, when the topic of fixing the railroad bridge and the tunnel was discussed, it's on there. The very first thing that I thought was, oh, we're gonna fix the tunnel and fix the bridge so the big construction vehicles can get through there, so that we can have lots more construction on the other side of the bridge and the tunnel. And to me, that's the main reason why this tunnel's being fixed. And yes, it will help the people who live there, because it is unsafe. But the very first thing I thought was, you just wanna fix that so that the big dump trucks can get through there. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else have anything to say? Ma'am? Please state your name and address.
Emily Gowans, 54 Ridgeland Drive. Good evening. I wanted to start my time with just a couple of questions for Mr. Anderson in relation to items on the agenda. The first question was, when did Mrs. Lucchina resign?
I'm really not, you can make your comments if you have comments on it.
So you can't answer any questions pertinent to, like, here's the challenge I have and why I'm interested in some of this, and I can submit right to know requests. I'm very familiar with the process now. So I'm happy to do that if that's the only way that I can get the information, but it would be helpful for the folks in attendance to hear things like this, because when we all attended the January meeting, there were no openings, everyone was happy. Residents expressed interest. They were told they would be put on a list and contacted should there be openings. Lo and behold, 11 days later, 9 days later, there were 2 openings. No one was informed that had expressed interest. In fact, someone met with Mr. Anderson 2 days after the resignations came in, and he wasn't informed that there were formal openings. 2 of the board members were not informed that there were formal openings. And to Mrs. Mazzarelli's point, it seems like there's a lot of cherry picking going on. So fast forward just 1 month, and we've got one more resignation where we have a resident who expressed interest in the opening, a resident who comes to nearly all the meetings, a resident who's taken a lot of time and attention in researching and providing information to this board on a variety of issues and topics, many of which you guys have seemed very open and receptive to. So it's really mind-boggling to understand how a resident who comes to so many meetings and expresses interest isn't being put forward for consideration on the vote for this role. And instead, another community member, and I no personal offense on anything, I'm sure you're a very qualified man. I've seen, what your profession is. I understand your qualifications, but I haven't seen you at any of these meetings, and I come to a lot of them. And so I'm just trying to understand and rationalize how all of this happens. I would also say that it's rather fascinating to me that when District 5, which is the district where this opening exists, circulated a petition expressing concerns over PRDs, nearly every single resident who was asked wanted to sign the petition. It was completely fine that there were individuals who did not want to sign the petition, but nearly 400 signed it, and only 3 that I know of opted not to. Again, totally fine. But one of the people who opted not to sign the petition is the person you're putting forward. Those are really, they're damaging facts. Like, I don't know how you speak to that. I really don't.
Speaks for itself. It's anti-democratic.
I just can't understand it.
I'm allowed to respond to the resident.
I would welcome a response from anyone who can explain how, 1 of 3 out of 400 who didn't want to sign it, whose background is in representing developers. So again, of the 3 openings that mysteriously weren't open in January, now there are 3, 2 of which have been filled. 1 was filled by the president of the Pennsylvania's Realtors Association, and the next one that's going to get filled is going to be filled, again, probably by a very capable, qualified person, and this is not impinging on his character in any means, but from a public perspective, when we've been putting forward residents who've been raising their hands, who have their own qualifications, who've been participating in the process for years, and they are overlooked, it is hard to understand how we would fill yet another one with someone who seems to have a deep background in protecting the interests of developers.
So if I can't respond to Ms. Gowan's, are you guys going to? Because this is our district, this is our home.
This is also a period for their comments.
Do you want me to speak to this?
I would
Emily?
love for
I'm
you
your
to speak. I
representative.
think
Would you like me
everyone
to
here
talk?
would probably love for you to speak.
Because I actually talked to you guys, and I explained why things happen. And that's probably why I'm not part of this decision-making process. It's probably why Chris isn't part of it. It's because we're actively engaged and we know what's going on. And I talked to Mr. McKeegan. He's extremely bright, courteous man, super educated. We had a good conversation over email. And he's obviously professionally qualified to be on the planning commission. I think he could explain what a PRD is, which a lot of people can't, who have to have that be explained to them every meeting. But respectfully, your opinion on PRDs is not representative of District 5, for the people that we went out and talked to. And not everybody who didn't sign, there were people who probably didn't sign, who didn't agree with it, who never reached out to us, but the numbers speak for themselves. And we saw how those numbers were suppressed. In October, when we had to run to the back room to talk about a First Amendment petition that every American citizen should be allowed to express to their government, it is what it looks like. It's anti-democratic.
So let me just speak. We went over the fulfillment of open position procedure in January, open meeting. We went over it in February. We'll go over it today again. Anyone in the district who wants to be on be on one of the boards should submit a letter of interest to the manager. They can do that anytime they want. We've been doing this, as I said last month, we've been doing this for 20-some years. And when positions open up, we don't know when they're gonna open up. There is no grand conspiracy going on here. When they open up, we take a look at the letters that we have on file, and Dan reviews them with, I think, Mr. Curti as well, and they make a recommendation to this board, and then this board makes a decision based upon that.
When did Mr. McKeegan submit his letter of interest?
February 20th.
And how did Mr. McKeegan find out in order to submit a letter of interest? Because he hasn't been at the meetings and it's not published
I
anywhere.
call him, I have every right to call whoever I wanna work with.
So it's
And I
not the
thought Kevin
citizens
was a good fit for
that
this.
I'm not part of it.
And also, just to answer another question on yours that she seemed to not understand. Mr. Capone, who
Ceremony.
notified you to submit a letter?
Mr. Carter, you informed me that there was a vacancy, and if I had an interest, I could submit a letter.
Just so we're clear on that, okay? I do like his input, and I commend him for all of his input that he's given. And when he submitted his letter said, I'd like to spot on the planning commission or the zoning hearing board. And that's why he's on the agenda to be on the zoning hearing board, because I thought, in my mind, in looking at the qualifications, compared to the two, Kevin's, in my opinion, more qualified.
Then I guess I would respectfully ask, and I appreciate the information, and I know it's so easy to feel on the attack and on the defensive. I feel the same way, so I'm not intending on a personal level to do that, and I am sorry. But the facts are still the facts, and if he sent a letter of intent or consideration, whatever the formal letter was, for either, why is he not potentially, so it's because you made the decision that of the two that submitted, I'm gonna assume it's just the two, that submitted the official letter, you chose the one over the other. And that's why he's on the agenda for a vote, and not the one who attends all of the meetings and expressed an interest in both openings. Again, for folks who come often, that feels, that kind of hurts, because we hear you saying you don't want to we're not going to live stream because it's about participation. It's about showing up face to face. We've got someone here express interest who's face to face with you all of the time, and he was not the one you chose.
We haven't chosen yet. So this is just a
Sorry,
recommendation.
put on the agenda
Of
for
Jeff
vote,
and
but
Dan.
my experience has been, once it's on the agenda, we know, we know. If I could bet on this in Vegas, I would.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments pertaining to agenda items?
Just pointed at them.
Nettie Owens, 109 Bruno Drive. Just reiterating what's been said already. Just my curiosity was where the opening for the planning commission was shared, but that's already been answered. I have a concern that the District 5 supervisor wasn't made aware of it. The last time that we got together, there was commentary that the district supervisors were made aware. And so that process wasn't followed in this particular case. The fact that Mr. Curti was notified, but the district supervisor wasn't, is concerning. And I'm trying to understand how come the employees of the township carry more weight than the elected officials in appointing committee members. Like, what is happening here that our supervisors don't have the information that they need to go out to their districts and say, hey, maybe the township's not gonna publicize it, but you guys could say there's an opening. You could talk to your constituents. I mean, Mr. Jorgensen, you said this kind of community is best run face-to-face, nose-to-nose, talking to people. So where is the talking happening? Because it's not. It's only happening in this room on these meetings, and it's exclusive to the people who can physically come into the room and be here. And still, you gaslight us I mean, you talk about the process in January as if it was set in stone. You all were figuring it out on January. You didn't have a straight answer, and then you came in February and say that this has been the process for 20 years. It's not documented anywhere. I've asked, but none of my emails were answered.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. That's development proposals.
Yes, Mayor, we have a gentleman here from the Allegheny Land Trust, Chris, you wanna help him with this? Beekner, so I don't wanna botch your last name.
Thank you.
Chris.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation, Dan. Appreciate me being able to speak for a few minutes about the Allegheny Land Trust and an exciting project that we have coming online in your community. So appreciate the time. I don't want to assume that you all know who the Allegheny Land Trust is, so I do have one or two slides just to give you a little bit of background information, if you wouldn't mind, Dan. Allegheny Land Trust, we are a nonprofit organization. We've been around for 30 years. We are headquartered in Allegheny County. Our mission is to conserve and care for local land for the health and well-being of current and future generations. So in a nutshell, we go out and conserve land, and then we take care of that land for perpetuity. And we allow people, the public, to access our land for hunting and fishing and biking and passive recreation opportunities. So we have close to 4,000 acres all around Allegheny County, as well as Butler and Washington County. And we were actually created by the Allegheny County Commissioners back in '93 because of the rapid disappearing of green space. There was a survey conducted by residents, and they were really concerned about the rapid decline of green space. So Allegheny Land Trust was created by the county. Yeah. And because of that rapid loss of green space, we are still doing what we do today, because Allegheny County still loses 2,000 acres of green space every year to various types of developments, residential business energy development, as well as infrastructure development, turnpike expansions, those types of things. So we're losing a great deal of green space, and the green space that we have left is obviously finite and going to be gone very, very soon if we don't act urgently in our mission. And at the same time, while we're consuming green space, our population has been declining steadily for many, many decades. So great urgency, and that's why we do what we do, and we have many support from the communities that we are participating in or working in. And this is just a kind of a Venn diagram, flower diagram that we like to show about the why. Why conservation, and really conservation is, we think, and I'm a little bit biased on this, but it's really at the center of a lot of the regional threats. Conserving land helps with landslides and flooding, and helps with air and water quality, certainly physical and mental health, being able to recreate on our lands. Being close to a large green space actually increases property values. There's many studies all around the country confirming that. So there's a lot of benefits, public benefits to conserving land. And this just gives you a snapshot. I know it's hard to read, so I apologize for that, but kind of our current properties all around the region, as well as our current projects. So we have a lot of projects, like I said, close to 4,000 acres that we've preserved all around the region. And again, hard to see, but I know you know where your community is in Indiana. You'll see that we have 5 conservation easements already in Allegheny County. So that's about over 30% of our conservation easements are in your township, which tells me you have a very conservation-minded community right here, wanting to maintain your rural character, wanting to maintain your property values, and balance the development that's happening in this region. So the project that I do want to talk to you about is the blue triangle called Miller on the map there. Dan? So this is a up close look at this property. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's owned by the Miller family. Cove Run Road bisects that. It's adjacent to Emerling Park. The turnpike is directly to the south. It's 290 acres, and we do have this property under contract to purchase and acquire this property by the end of this year, or no later than March of 2025, giving us time to fundraise for this property. So we have this 290 acres under agreement for $2.5 million, and we are now in the process of developing our fundraising plan and going out and talking with funders and talking with community members like yourself to give you an opportunity to understand the project and ask questions about the project. So next slide, I guess. Few project details and kind of the community benefits. Again, I said 290 acres. There's a well pad on the very northern end of this property. We have it written into the agreement of sale that we're going to, we would like to subdivide that 10 acres out, so we're not responsible for having any type of long-term maintenance to that, or having a need to have a long-term relationship with range resources or anything like that. So we negotiated as part of that agreement of sale to carve out about 10 acres. So it's 280 acres total adjacent to Emerling Park. As you probably saw on the map and already know, there's a mile of Rachel Carson Trail on the property, which, you know, I run that trail every year during the challenge. So love that section of the trail for sure. Has frontage on Deer Creek. It's certainly a high quality stream as well. So part of our conservation values is to protect land that has streams running through it. And like I said, we have finalized the purchase agreement for closing on the property no later than March of 25, and I mentioned the 10 acres there. But lots of community benefits, close to home recreation. It's adjacent to Emerling Park, so it makes a 339 acre greenway. It absorbs right now, as it stands, 231 million gallons of water every year. So if that were ever to develop, that rainwater would increase in speed and flood Deer Creek and flood your community in certain areas potentially. But it also absorbs carbon and other pollutants, which helps to increase the quality of air within your community. Our real high-level fundraising plan at this point is, again, $2.5 million for acquisition, about $90,000 in our costs to do due diligence. We do appraisals, we do a phase one, we do a boundary survey, and closing costs, and a variety of our costs are covered in this in that $90,000 part of it. But our plan is to go out to the state Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for almost $1.3 million grant. We actually had 3 members of DCNR on the property, walking the property with us last week. Very impressed with the property. It's definitely a piece of property that meets our criteria. And then other parts of the fundraising and going after foundation and corporate sponsors and other government grants. And then every project that we work on, we go to the community and do a community campaign where we ask residents. We generally, put a point on the map of the property and do like a 3 or 5 mile radius around there and just distribute literature to all the residents asking for their support. These state grants, as you probably know, require local matching dollars, which is where the community dollars come in, the foundation dollars, and corporate grants. So our goal is to flush out this fundraising plan. We'll be applying to multiple state grants, not just DCNR, but DCED, possibly DEP and others, possibly federal grants, with the goal to fundraise for these dollars and be able to close on the property in March of 25. And I don't think there was anything else I wanted to mention about that. So next slide, and that's it. Thanks again for the invitation. And I guess the takeaway that I'm looking for here, and this is in consultation with Dan, is with these state grants that we submit, they're always asking for support letters from the municipality, community partners. I have a staff member meeting with the Rachel Carson Trail Conservancy tonight as well, asking for their support and a support letter. So we go to the elected officials at the local, state, and federal level to talk about the project and ask for their support. So if you do support this project, we'd love to have your support and be able to submit a support letter on your behalf to the state grants that we submit later this year. Any questions?
Just a couple. Number one, I want to thank you for bringing this to us. It's a great initiative. I don't think you're going to find, I don't want to speak for the members, but I don't think you're going to find any trouble getting support for this.
Thank you.
As far as your other initiatives, where does this 290 or 280, once you carve out the 10, where does that fit in relationship to your other initiatives or your other preservation areas?
Well, Indiana Township specifically is a high priority for us, in part because of Deer Creek and how high quality the stream is, and we want to protect that stream as much as possible. There's also natural heritage inventory hits in the Deer Creek community, so we really want to focus on those areas of high ecological value, but also too close to home, recreation opportunities for the population that would want to utilize these lands for passive recreation opportunities. We have a lot of other projects going on right now. If that's your question, like how does it fit within our
Size and scope, yeah. Too.
Size and scope, actually, this would be, if we were successful, the largest acquisition in terms of acreage that we've ever protected. We do have a 450 acre property down below McKeesport, but we added pieces onto that over the last 20 some years. So the biggest piece that we acquired at one time was like 150 acres or something like that. So this would be the biggest acreage wise. It's the second biggest dollar wise. If you're familiar with the Churchill Valley Country Club, when it was a country club, it's now the Churchill Valley Greenway, because we acquired that piece of property back in 2021, and that was actually a $3+ million acquisition that we fundraised for. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, thank you. And being a veteran of the Rachel Carson, you know that that's probably on top of the hill there.
Mhm.
From my perspective, I walk up there a lot.
Yeah.
It's probably the nicest piece of property that we have in the region. It's just stunningly gorgeous up there.
Yeah.
To have it preserved is absolutely excellent. Will you be building out other trails in this? And the other thing, I guess the only question I have is we have Emerald Park right there.
Yeah.
I do believe that if you are successful in getting this land acquired, it's gonna be a draw around the entire county, and multiple counties to come, because it's gonna be a gorgeous piece of property. Are you gonna be putting trailheads in and other areas for people to go that would take some of the burden off of Emerald?
We, if there is a burden on Emerling, we can certainly have that conversation. We've just recently got it under contract, so in terms of, I have a stewardship team that really, once we acquire the land, we really devise a plan on how we're gonna maintain it, what all we wanna do. That in part is community driven, because we don't wanna build additional trails or put in trailheads if we don't think the community is going to utilize it or help us maintain it in some ways too. We have, 500 volunteers every year on various properties, providing thousands of hours of time and volunteer time. But they're doing that because they want to see new trails built and they want to see those trailheads built. So to answer your question, we haven't really made that decision yet, and we haven't had that conversation with anybody at this point.
Okay, thank you. Oh, just so people can understand the scope of this, of the 6 districts within the school district, Fox Chapel School District, you've got Fox Chapel, Indiana, O'Hare, Sharpsburg, Aspinwall, and Roanoke. This property that they're looking to acquire is larger than the borough of Roanoke. It's larger than the borough of O'Hare, and it's almost as large as
Aspinwall, you mean? I believe it's Aspinwall.
There's no way it's bigger than that.
Aspinwall's like 200.
No, Aspinwall is about 400.
That's Sharpsburg, it's probably.
Sharpsburg.
Anyway, it's a large
Because
piece
of
of
some
property
municipalities, yeah.
that I think is a really wonderful opportunity for us, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Indiana Township. My family's more from over by Millville, so we saw what you guys did up in Gertie's Woods.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference,
Gertie's
especially
Run
with
was a huge success.
flooding,
Mhm.
we all have our traumatic flooding stories.
I'm
up in
familiar with that
Millville,
property
all that
intimately
stuff.
too.
Yeah, from Reserve, yeah.
Yeah.
So we know the good work you're doing, and
Thank you.
I'll talk to state, local, county, whatever you need.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thanks.
Okay, can I get a motion to support?
I think you probably want a motion to have a letter prepared. To be
That's what I'm
Well,
getting.
Well, yeah, just to prepare a letter for next meeting.
We don't need a motion for
I
that.
think you, but I just want to make, you're making a motion to add on the agenda for next meeting to.
That's what
Yeah,
I was.
sure.
Can I get a motion to put on the agenda next month to prepare a letter of support for the land trust to obtain or to get this property, so that it's.
Sorry, Mr. Ron, you can, you don't want to, you're authorizing the preparation letter now to be voted on at the next meeting. You you had said, to consider proposing, but I think you want the letter prepared,
Right.
and you guys can vote on it at the next meeting, is what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
And I'll work with you to make sure I work it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll amend, well, can I get a motion from?
Yeah, I get a motion to do what Irv said, as far as write a letter of support that we can vote on, in the April meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Newman, to prepare a letter in support and put it on next month's agenda. Any conversation, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Would you mind repeating your name again?
Chris Beekner? Yeah, I can give some cards.
Yeah, I have the information, I can send it out if you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor
Very good.
Newman, to pay the bills. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Old business. Anderson?
Yeah, possible approval of the final estimate for the 2023 paving project. Mr. Slagle, you wanna cover that?
Certainly. So, as the board will recall, as the 2023 paving project was done in 2023. We had a couple items that needed to be completed by the developer. The developer has now completed those items, and the recommendation would be to approve the final estimate in the amount of $23,557.66, made payable to Tresco Paving Company.
Okay,
I will make a motion to pave for the 2023 paving project.
in the amount of $23,557.60.
66.
66. Okay, so do I have a second?
Second.
Then we have a motion by Supervisor Hedrick and second by Supervisor Jorgensen to approve paying the final $23,557.66 to Trusco Paving for the completion of the 2023 paving project. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go on to reports, volunteer fire companies.
I have nothing else.
We just met as an association last week and continue to do business and serve. Obviously with the support from the township for the tax purposes, now Allegheny County has now gone on board, so we're waiting further additional information on that to better help us gain more ground. So, other than that, our next meeting will be June 5th, and we'll go from there. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to emergency medical services.
Good evening. I'll just give you a little quick snapshot as far as
Could
the
you
calls.
say your name, please?
I'm sorry, Terry Anzaldi, Laura Valley EMS.
Okay, thank you.
We had 20 calls for the month of February into Indiana Township. 8 of those were transported ALS, 5 of those were transported BLS. We had 1 fire standby, 3 refusals, and 3 mutual aids into other parts of Indiana Township. Takes us down to, from January to February, we're down 16%. So we had 24 responses in January and 20 in the month of February. Something else I just wanted to talk about real quick is we're getting ready to roll out a new program in April. We're gonna offer CPR courses to any of the residents of the communities that we serve and businesses for $15 per person. I'll get Dan more information once we actually roll it out, but I just wanted to bring
Okay,
that up.
thank you very much.
Sure.
Are they gonna be in the community, or are they gonna have to?
Well, we're gonna, depending on the size, we might ask for maybe one of the fire stations or something of that nature, depending on how many people we get. If they're small, then we can always bring them to our station.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Terry.
Police chief?
All members were given a copy of the report. The only thing needed to be added to the report is just to advise you that CN Railroad was down at the tunnel. There was some testing done on Tuesday and today. We're gonna get the results back in a week, and we will see where we're going with this project, that as everyone involved has been getting the emails nonstop every day. So hopefully we'll be able to get this moving a little bit quicker. It seems like the railroad is stepping up and kind of moving a little bit further ahead.
Great, so official report, they're gonna cough it up? Thanks.
Well,
And our
I
target
don't-
with the drilling that's being done, that
Yeah.
will result in that.
That'd be great.
And also will result in them being able to develop their spec for the reconstruction.
That's good news.
Great. Code enforcement?
Thanks, Mayor. The only thing I want to add is I did not have a year-end report last month. It's in your packets tonight. Jackie just came back full-time last month, so she was able to get this together. This is the highest revenue year that I've ever had in all the years I've been here. Most of the single-family dwellings obviously were from the Hidden Falls development. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Public Works?
I have nothing to add, Mayor.
Thank you. Engineer?
Thanks, Mayor. Being March, of course, it's gonna be St. Patrick's Day, so, hence the green. So let's dive in here. With the development proposals at the last planning commission meeting, the Richmond Estates subdivision was presented to the board, but it was withdrawn by the developer for further consideration at a future meeting. On the Allison subdivision plan, that particular plan was forwarded to the zoning hearing board for additional consideration there. On the Richmond Estates PRD, the developer continues to address the outstanding items in the letter of final matters. And again, we do have his sequestered fund in place until March 31st of 2024. And the solicitor and myself will be monitoring the progress of that as we get closer to it.
So, then what happens on April 1st?
Well, we'll do as we have done in the past, which is ask the developer if they have not completed all of the tasks, and we're not in a position to recommend to the board that they accept it, we'll ask the developer to extend it. If the developer refuses to extend it, then the solicitor and myself, or I should say, rather the manager and the solicitor, will go down to the bank and they'll withdraw it.
Okay. So we won't lose it at the end of the month?
No.
Well, unless I forget about it.
And when you say withdraw, what does that mean?
That's where we take a big bag, we go down to the bank and they put money in.
And then you use that sequestered fund, no, but in
just-
seriousness,
yeah.
do you use that money to do what's left on the letter?
That's
the
what,
final
that's what the
matters?
developer's agreement allows you to do. Do we wanna do it? No.
Right.
We want to just encourage the developer to finish, which he has, continued to extend it.
Right, and so he'll be giving that opportunity to extend it again?
Yes.
And how long will he be given to extend it until the township says, enough?
Whenever you want to pull that string, you can, but I would strongly recommend against it, just because now it involves litigation, you're incurring, legal costs to go after something that we really want him to finish. And like I said, he's been faithfully taking care of it.
And if that would be the key, is if he wasn't continuing to show progress and take those steps.
But you always have to handle it.
So if he wants to, extend this, how much of a time frame past March 31st would he be given?
He's usually been doing it, well, the prior ones have been more like 6 to 8 months. This last one was only, yes, engineers do count on their fingers.
Well, it was in September,
3 months.
right? They were supposed to have the final inspection,
Yes.
right?
So
September?
So it's like 6 months, but anyways, whatever we feel is necessary to complete the outstanding item, might be the date that we work toward. But it's there, and like I said, the developer is continuing to take care of the items that are on the list. Okay? Yeah, we definitely don't want to, go after, unless he just completely ignores the township or moves the floor or something like that. That's something really crazy. So, on the courtyard at Hidden Falls subdivision, the developer is continuing to work on the sidewalks, as Jeff alluded to. I'm gonna say, Jeff, that that's 79% built on might be higher.
Well, it is not, just issue more permits.
Now, let me just say, is in accordance with your sound though, as soon as he reaches 80%, he can petition the township to actually take it over, provided he can complete the final matters letter there.
Yeah, I thought they were there.
But normally, we encourage him to just kind of delay that even there's past 80%.
So Jeff, does this mean that all of the lots have been sold?
I think there's still 4 or 5 left.
4 or 5 lots left?
So on the Heartwood Meadows plan, if you've been up there, you'll see that, I'll have to smile at Chris here for a second. They did start the sidewalks, and then with the assistance of Chris, making me aware of the fact that he was doing it without our supervision, we asked the developer to bring them all back up. So, which the developer was very kind enough to do. So, the little things we do. On the Foxwood Trails, PRD, there's no further action there. The Blue Run Road development, the developer did ask the solicitor and myself to start the preparation of the developer's agreement and set forth the bonding, which we did. And right now, we're just confirming the tree count on the property before they go there and start timbering. On the Indiana Trails PRD, we did do some work on the developer's agreement there. Again, that particular plan is basically kind of stagnant at this point, but we do have to do a little bit of work on confirming the tree count there. On the old Saxony School site plan, the developer did petition the township to accept the plan. The code enforcement officer and myself still has 2 outstanding items of that, which we'll be talking about with the developer. On the Harmony Heart Run site plan, we still hold their performance bond in the amount of $642,200 and the other one for $51,200. I don't know how anybody can make that, keep that much money in limbo like that for that many years, but Jeff and I will probably be doing a follow-up conversation with the owners there.
Can I ask a Blue Run related question? You said it's
Sure.
stagnant, so they're not at this time.
That's Indiana Trails.
Oh, okay. And, sorry, I should go fast. It's Blue, and you said the Blue Run is,
Why back up? The Foxwood Trails was approved, or was it?
in 2020, Foxwood Trails?
Yes, back in 2020.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's as soon as 5 years triggers, obviously they have to come back before the board. But they now have all their third-party approvals for Foxwood Trails. My guess is that it's because of the current inflation rates and the cost of just building buildings. They're gonna be on the wall.
And is Blue Run making any forward movement at this time?
They're just starting to now.
Okay.
I would anticipate breaking ground for probably about 2 to 3 months. But again, a lot of this has to do with financing
Right, yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
and the current state of the economy. On the Ottawa Hills,
Hold on a second, what happens on the 5th of May, when the 5-year clock hits for Foxwood Trails?
So what your MPC in the Saldo states is that technically it has to go back before the planning commission and supervisors unless the developer were to come to the board and ask for an extension, which I would imagine they would probably grant that extension since the Saldo really hasn't changed that much, that would change something in that. But it could force it to go back through the system.
And we know if he's gonna come, or they're gonna come?
I'll keep you informed when we get closer to 2025. Your guess is as good as mine. On the MS4 program, of course, you had your inspection there on the February the 1st. Again, I just want to commend Jeff Curti, your manager, Larry specifically, for all the hard work that his staff does with all the detention basins. Because of Larry's hard work, you had a very positive response from the DEP official. We have now responded to all the supplemental data that they wanted. Your next report's due on September 28th of 2024. But more specifically, getting back to this Miller Family Land Trust deal. As you saw what we were able to do with the various developments that came before the township, we were able to take credit for all those different detention basins. Can you imagine what I can do with this land trust?
Yeah.
So as DEP puts more pressure on municipalities to improve the environment by nutrient loading reductions, with this maneuver, if it were to move forward, the positive spin to this, for me anyways, is to use that to offset any future plans that DEP or EPA may have relative to this program. The other thing I just wanted to mention for the board of supervisors is that Emerling Park, believe it or not, is almost split in half. You have a lower tier where you have your soccer fields. There's also an upper tier above that we've always had trouble getting access to. As you start to proceed through your negotiations, one of the things that I would suggest is that we ask for an access road specifically to your upper tier, because that is a wonderful tract up there. Larry and I will start having semi-annual meetings on the MS4 program as suggested by DEP. On the zoning, or the township zoning ordinance update, again, we made a presentation to our planning commission about PRDs and things of that nature, just to get everybody up to speed. Things that we're keying in on is compliance with the existing comprehensive plan. The next was a cost-benefit analysis, which they're currently reviewing at this point. And finally, once that's kind of ironed out a little bit, we'll be making that presentation to the planning commission so that you're fully up to speed with what's going on there. On the 2023 paving project, we've already acted on that. The Emerling Park ADA sidewalk plan, the final grant application was put in. And as I discussed at the last meeting, this will provide the next leg of the ADA sidewalks that will gain access to the pavilion, as well as some other amenities down there. The Emerling Park ADA sidewalk that you do have in place, the grant was for $40,000, the low bid was $50,000. So we've trimmed the scope of work, so there is no additional cost to the township. We had our pre-construction meeting today on that. So my guess is that they'll be starting probably at the end of March to early April to get involved with that sidewalk.
Do you recall, I mean, that's a 20% reduction, you know what was cut out? When you said you trimmed out the scope.
I just, the one leg that we had going down with the future fishing pier is going to be, we just moved it back 7 feet.
7 feet.
Yeah, so it's.
At some point, we're gonna have to do that.
That will handle that, and the grant application was the one before that. Yeah, there is no gaps in the sidewalks. The next thing is the township salt shed, and again, I want to thank your public works superintendent for meeting with me, explaining what he wants. We will be adding 2 bays to your facility to store more salt, to keep your costs down. And then finally, later on in your agenda, you'll see the 2024 paving project that Larry and I have been working extensively on that. And what that involves is, if you went back to your road priority list, you'll see the roads that we're scheduled to do this year. We did take off Shaker Heights, and Larry and I are proposing to possibly pave the town hall. Again, it depends on how much you budgeted. In addition, there will be a guide rail project to take care of some safety issues within the township. We will be shooting and chipping Ridge Hill Road and the upper portion of Cove Run Road, and then of course some dust control measures. So a lot going on in the township. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I can interject something here.
Yes, of
I
course.
want to take a minute. At the last meeting, we had a few comments and concerns about this, what appears to be excessive spending from our engineer. And a comment was made, or comments were made about it being, I think it was 270% over budget. So I wanna go back and take a look at, where we actually are, where we were in 2023, and lay out the facts of really what happened, because that was a public comment. I also wanted to go back, I think there was another one too, to go back and really look at it, cause I couldn't really quite find, where the 270 came from, but I think it came from November, the November report. But either way, this is for year end, so I wanna take a minute, to explain so we can alleviate any concerns, about what's going on with our engineer. So we had a budget last year, of $97,000 for, expenses for our engineer. Actually came in, he billed the township $191,000, so roughly $100,000 over budget. Almost comes out to 200% over budget. And if you look at that alone, you'd say, well, that's kind of a concern, what's going on here? But you can't look at just the expense, you gotta look at the entire picture, and that's what I wanna look at here. So if you go on, and in the same report, you go and take a look at the reimbursements that we got for their activities. So in 2023, we had budgeted $35,000 that we would get reimbursed from developers. And actually, the township got reimbursed $159,000 for expenses. So what that means is when our engineer or anyone on his teams works with our developers, to review plans, to be on site, to whatever is required, they bill, that's billable hours, but we have set it up so that so the taxpayers don't have to pay for it. We can bill the developer and get reimbursed for that. So if you take a look at, from a budget perspective, we were anticipating a net expense of $62,000 for our engineer and his services. Actual net expense was $31,000 for the year, which is absolutely phenomenal. So his services and the way we have it planned out provided a surplus a budget surplus of $30,000. And I also have to commend not just Dan and his team, but Dan Anderson, Mr. Kurtai, Irv and his firm. We have something built into our developer agreements that we can bill our developers for a number of different services that none of them like. And as we talk to other townships and other municipalities, not many people can do that. As a matter of fact, there's two I know of that all expenses for the engineer have to be absorbed by the taxpayers. So I commend the administrative team, and you hear about developing developers agreements and so forth. That allows us to be able to recuperate is EMS, sorry, to recoup a lot of those expenses, so that the township or the residents do not have to absorb those expenses, but the developers have to absorb those expenses. And that's on top of the fees that we also impose for the trees, for traffic studies, for traffic impact. There's a lot of things that this administrative team has built into our developer agreements that it really truly is the envy of a number of different municipalities, because they can't recover those expenses. So hats off to you, and I thank you for the services, and do what you can to save us money. That's it. Just want to bring some clarity into what actually happened.
Thank you. Solicitor?
I do not have a report this evening.
Thank you. Manager?
I should mention a few things. We have replacement playground equipment that has been ordered for the damaged items in the parks. The weather's beating us to it, trying to get that update done. We did have the new mower for Public Works delivered. We had to have emergency repairs on the Broza Community Center roof. It was due to wind damage that took the flat section pretty much off. And the work has been done, and it's been turned into insurance, and we expect them to pay the full repair from the insurance. I'm preparing an RFP for the pension services. It's been some time since we've done that. I'd like to prepare something for the near future. And we're continuing with the codification. We're making progress. We've had some updates to the code section from Mr. Cardice's responses to general code. And I know it's a long process, but it is moving forward. So I just wanted to update you on that. And I should also point out the hardware for the updates for the cables for the room are sitting in that box. And will be installed as soon as I can get that done. So that's all I have to add, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Parks and Recreation Board or Community Services? Seeing nobody. Move on. Historical Commission? Seeing nobody. Supervisor, District 1.
You know, this past month we met with some residents and with the manager and with the chief about summer at Artwood and what Artwood Acres plans with the wedding venue, and trying to get ahead of that. So we work with the county to see what we can do to keep ahead of the noise. Appreciate the support, chief, and Dan staying on top of time. That's it.
Okay. District 3. And Darren, let's see if Darren is available now.
That's okay. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, Darren.
Hey, how are you?
I got you on speaker.
Okay, all right, I'm here.
All right, thank you. Do you have a report for your district?
I do not have a report.
Okay, thank you very much. District 4.
Yeah, District 4, so Berry Hill is open, so, taking
They're
this,
in Punxsutawney Phil, isn't it?
Yeah.
Spring is here.
yeah, spring is here, and then of course we had the blizzard that hit right after, but, it is, people, on surrounding, cut-throughs are seeing a little bit of relief. There was some work done from People's Gas on Klein, and some issues with some trash, but I didn't see it, so I think they must have come back for some leftover materials and stuff. But Larry, if you're around, driving around and you see anything, yeah, keep an eye out, but it seemed to be taken care of. And the only other thing is with in conjunction to the Emerald ADA stuff that we've been talking about in Schlegel's report, and since I've secured partial funding for the pier, I'm gonna go back and talk to the DA and see if we can postpone accepting those funds. I'm hopefully going to get some more information on additional grant funding to cover more of that cost.
That other 20%.
Yeah, for the ADA pier. There is a new hub in Southwest PA through the Heinz Endowment that is helping write grants for federal funding. And the folks over there are really excited about just the improvements that we've been making at Emerald, and specifically where this site is located, right on the Rachel Carson Trail, near the wetlands with the birding. The stream, as you heard the gentleman from Allegheny Land Trust, is very popular, and they seem to be really excited to possibly help us secure the funding for that. So I hope to have more on that soon.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. So, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. District 5?
District 5, 11th District 5. Things are good. I think we're excited that the Plan Commission is back in operation. Excited to see whether our little petition that we circulated last summer gets honored and we can live life without PRDs in District 5, which is what I think my residents want. So, exciting summer ahead of us.
And District 2, everything's pretty good in District 2. I had a meeting with one of the homeowners associations just a week or so ago, and a couple of concerns were made about particularly the guardrails at the top and the bottom of Blue Run Road, because with all the layers of pavement and so forth that have been put on that road over time, the guardrails are really low and pretty dangerous. So, as you heard earlier, part of the paving project this year is to repair guardrails, so that'll be taken care of. Then overall, everything is in pretty good shape. So we're on to, I need the motion.
Yeah, motion to approve the reports as submitted.
I'll move.
Okay, I'm going to have a motion to accept the preceding reports from Supervisor Jorgensen and second from Supervisor Newman. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to correspondence.
Yes, Mayor, we do seem to have a good bit of correspondence this month. We got the Duquesne Light, the Kissick Ash Disposal, their PADEP permit notification. Next, we have the Hunt Valley Environmental, which is Independence Excavating, their notification. Range Resources, notification regarding the James Drake modification. And then you have a letter from the Fox Chapel Authority, just notifying us of a rate increase that they are receiving from Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority for their water supplier of 18.9%. So they're working and looking at ways to accommodate that sharp increase, and they'll be notifying us later in the spring the results of that. So stay tuned. That's going to be significant. They might want to think about, opening their plant up again, drilling some wells themselves.
Yeah.
The last one is CEC, Civil Environmental Consultants, and that's on the Indianola Terminal Bridge repairs notification. That's all we have for correspondence, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to new business.
Yes, Mayor. Under new business, the first item we have is the appointment. You saw we had the resignation recently from Lisa Lachina, who served on the Planning Commission. And I have the information on Mr. Kevin McKeegan, and I would ask for your appointment of Mr. McKeegan to the Planning Commission to replace for the remainder of the term, unexpired term, on the Planning Commission. And Mr. McKeegan is here this evening. And I thank you for coming. I thank you for being willing to serve. And if you would like, you're more than welcome.
It's up to you. It's your meeting. Thank you.
More than welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Newman, for remembering our correspondence.
Proud to be your rep.
Thank you. And I'm proud you are, actually. Thank you. So, just a little bit about myself. I've been a practicing commercial real estate attorney in Pittsburgh for 42 years now. Most of that has correctly stated been representing developers. However, I think Mr. Furman could probably affirm that my style is to work with communities, work with municipalities, and the best projects are those that everybody supports. You don't really get good development if you're fighting. So my style is not to fight. I prefer to work things out. In terms of me personally, I've reached a point in my career where I think it's important that I give back to the community. I'm the chair of the Educational Foundation Board of CCAC. It's not the Board of Trustees. We're the ones who are supposed to go out and raise money. I'm on the board of City of Asylum Pittsburgh, which is an arts and literary organization on the north side that supports writers who are in danger in their home countries. We're right now sponsoring 3 Ukrainian writers, a writer from the Sudan, and a writer from Ethiopia. We help them get into the United States, we help them get settled, we find them jobs, and we allow them to do what they do best, which is produce works of literature. I've been a resident of the community since 1990. I can remember attending meetings at the Township building over on Route 910. As a matter of fact, one of the first cases I had as a baby lawyer was representing Dr. and Mrs. Ravella when they were fighting a project next to their farm that ultimately never went through. So it is correct, I don't come to meetings every night because I'm usually out representing a client in Upper St. Clair or Bethel Park or other places. But I'm proud to be a resident of Indiana Township. I think with my background, I have something to add to the Planning Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
So Kevin, obviously you're a great guy. All the accolades speak for themselves on community service. I think some of the frustration that we feel as District 5 is just on this fundamental ability of self-determination of what we feel, whether we are represented as a community on the Planning Commission. I mean, we went through a lot of effort to get that petition out there. And broadly speaking, I think I'm fine to say that we generally do not like the PRDs, not just in a crude sort of NIMBY type of way, as much as we're already kind of teed up for 50% growth in District 5, and we just kind of want to take a hard pause to look at whether this really even benefits our community, not just in intangibles, but even in the raw economic data. We still don't even have that. As Mr. Slagle said, they're still working on the cost-benefit analysis. So to me, you know, it feels frustrating that we have put our voices forward to the township, to the Board of Supervisors, to get hundreds of signatures, and have those questioned and sort of, you know, dismissed. It's very tough to take. I mean, I trust that you're open-minded, but I really hope that if this goes forward and you are appointed, that you hear your neighbors about why we want this to stop, because it means a lot to us. And I really can say that it's the most important issue when people talk to me from our district. It's the reason why I serve, is to make that voice heard, and I don't feel like it's been heard in this process of how this went about, how you were reached out to. So it's nothing personal, but this strange process that we're all trying to wrap our heads around just doesn't feel right.
Well, I'm not going to comment.
You don't have to speak
no,
to
no,
that. But if you want to talk about,
no, I think it's fair because you and I did have a correspondence.
Yeah,
and
it was great.
Let's be open about it.
Yeah.
I did not sign a petition. I'm not generally a petition signing guy.
Yeah.
Generally,
but it was very thoughtful email.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a very
my point in a sentence is the problem isn't the initials PRD. The problem is the PRD ordinance.
Yes.
Because the Planning Commission can only apply what you, the governing body, adopt. So if the governing body adopts a bad ordinance, there's not a whole lot the Planning Commission can do about it. It can only make a recommendation, and it can only make a recommendation based on what's in front of it. So ultimately, I'm not going to comment on frustrations or that, I get it, okay? But ultimately, from a Planning Commission perspective, give them a good ordinance. Give the Planning Commission a good ordinance, and you'll get good projects. The only personal experience I've had, again, I pointed this out to you, the Venango Trails development in Marshall Township is a PRD. 200 plus homes. Chris Speakner was here from Allegheny Land Trust. 70 to 80 acres of that property was preserved and donated to the Allegheny Land Trust because Marshall Township's ordinance required them to do those sorts of things, okay? So you've got a rather dense development with a big open space with, you know, lakes and a really environmentally sensitive development that followed the ordinances. They didn't need any variances, they followed the ordinances. So I get it. There's development pressures, and development pressures create all sorts of issues, and they have to be dealt with. But ultimately, Planning Commission can only make recommendations. It's up to you.
Yes, but what scares me is how do we get that statute? Because currently, it's being written by the engineer, and I think one reason why there's so much popular sentiment for Mr. Capone is that he has provided model language for how to move forward, and we were excited to maybe have a member of the community, a citizen that lives here, that pays the taxes, actually write the code and make sure that's what the planning commission votes on, and not with just the engineers, because all respect to Mr. Slagle, I mean, Paul did a good job clarifying things. He still is incentivized by his job to, promote development on some level. It doesn't have the same sort of objectivity that you do on the planning commission if you have a resident, and it doesn't internalize the costs of development. So I just want to make sure that we have you as a strong voice to actually write the code and make sure that what people say they want is in there. So when it comes to us, I don't just have to vote it down. I want
Sure.
to be able to vote yes.
No, I understand. I live here and pay taxes too, and I've written zoning codes, and I get it. Thank you. Any other questions? Happy to.
I just wanted to say, based on your statements, is right now the planning commission is currently tasked with rewriting our PRD to recommend to us. So just to echo a little bit of what John was saying, Mr. Capone has been, I think, to every meeting, possibly more meetings than I've attended. He makes it to every planning meeting. He has been nothing but insightful, respectful, steadfast. The way he picks things up has been really incredible. He probably knows more about what is currently in that red line than any of us sitting up here tonight. And so I think, with the frustrations that are coming forward is that you will be tasked with that, to write that, to reflect the community, to recommend to us. And so really it has kind of been put in the planning commission's hands at this time to take our voices as a community and steer the ship.
Happy to take it on.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. McGeegan to the planning commission.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Crowley, to appoint Mr. McKeegan to the Planning Commission. Do I hear any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve or to appoint, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay?
Mr. Crowley, we really couldn't hear you. What was your vote?
I made the second on the motion.
Yeah, and on the vote, was it aye or nay?
Aye.
Okay. Motion is approved, 3-1, 2.
That brings us to the next one, Mayor. I would ask for the appointment of Mr. Chris Capone to the zoning hearing board alternate. And when it does come to attending meetings, Mr. Capone does attend all the zoning hearing board meetings as well. And he's familiar with the cases that have been before them. And he'll be able to sit at the dais instead of in the audience as a member of the zoning hearing board. So I'd ask for your appointment of Mr. Chris Capone to the zoning hearing as an alternate. Thank you.
Any comment?
No, I didn't prepare a speech or anything. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions. I think, I have an engineering background, some familiarity with the legal process, but I'm not an attorney. So I have a number of relatives that are. And I do have an interest in, serving the community.
Thank you for that interest.
Thank you for your comments. Any
As
other
long as you
questions?
stay able to stay involved with board supervisors and planning commission, by all means. I wish it wasn't best supporting actor, I wish I got the Oscar, but.
She got the Oscar.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Capone to the zoning board hearing board alternate.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Capone to the zoning hearing board alternate position. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And thank you, Mayor. The next item is the possible authorization to advertise the 2024 paving program. Mr. Slagle, would you like to cover anything regarding that?
Just as I reported in my engineer's report, the roads that are scheduled for paving this year are those that are contained in the 3-year plan in the township's priority paving program, which is all a matter of public.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Motion to pave our roads?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I have a, excuse me, motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Hertwick, to approve, or to, excuse me, to advertise the 2024 paving program. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Did you get, that was an aye for you, Mr. Crowley?
That was an aye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the next item, Mayor, is the authorization to advertise the salt shed addition project. I know the engineer did cover that.
Yes, you did.
I'll make the motion to advertise for the salt shed addition project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Hertwick and a second by Supervisor Jorgensen to approve advertisement of the salt shed addition project. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
And then last, Mayor, is the acceptance of the selling of the 2006 GMC pickup and the Hustler mower via municipal to the highest bidders. You have copies of those bid results before you. The high bid for the GMC pickup was $7,100, and the high bid for the zero turn mower was $2,150.
I'll make a motion to sell the 2006 GMC pickup and Hustler mower to the highest bidders.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Hertwick, a second by Supervisor Newman to accept selling the 2006 GMC pickup and the Hustler mower for the prices indicated by the township manager. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we come to citizens forum for non-agenda items. That's, if anybody has any comments, reference to a non-agenda item, please come forward, state your name and your address.
Ben Rathon, 2022 on the Beechwood Drive, part of the Richmond community. Last month, Dan Slagle said I was ridiculous and took things out of context. I didn't algebra equation. You failing to provide accurate context is your fault, not mine. I do appreciate you providing that extra information tonight, and I would hope that that's going to be posted on the website along with the correct budget, showing the actual in the budget. But that budgeting issue is only part of my issue with our township engineer. In the Richmond community, again, we have not had a classically trained engineer as our representative. He's a lovely guy, but he's a retired school teacher. You said he's worked for you for 7 years. I don't know if that's enough to make him qualified to oversee the construction of an entire neighborhood. Also, you know, I pointed out, I think some of these things very, very questionable, and when you look at a business in 2024 that doesn't have a website, it's a massive red flag to me. You know, you three really took issue with me raising that. Mr. Jurgensen, you made the point that people can make things up on a website, and obviously, people can make things up on a website. Ethical, reputable businesses don't tend to make things up on websites, typically. It does seem as though people can make things up in this room as long as they sit on that side of the table. Doesn't seem to be a
Give me an
ton.
example of something we made up.
Gladly. I have several. Let's talk about a couple of these. So, let's assume that the budgeting piece and that has been addressed, and that's all correct. Darren Crawley said last month that he and Dan Slagle have done a dozen or more walkthroughs of the Richmond community. What's the evidence of that? My home office looks right at the street. I've never seen Dan Slagle in our community one time, not once. I see Tom frequently, but I've never seen Dan there once. And in one of these meetings, Dan was asked by the HOA board of Richmond for them to be included in those walkthroughs, and he said he would, and he never has, not once. So, show your work. If those walkthroughs have happened, why are other members of the community being included in those? I'd say another example of things that feel made up. We talked a lot about the streaming, the live streaming of these meetings. You three in particular say you talk to all of these people that feel very strongly against streaming. And I find that to be very odd. Those people that you reference feel so passionately about not streaming the meetings that exactly 0 of those people have come to attend one of these meetings to speak on your side of the argument. It seems like those people may not really exist. There's not a lot of evidence supporting your side of that argument. So it's kind of hard to take it seriously, frankly. Another example would be Dan Anderson saying that our missing trees on our lot are on the Final Matters letter. I've seen a copy of the Final Matters letter. It's not on there. And oddly enough, Dan Slagle signed off that we have all the trees we're supposed to. So we can't even agree on which side of that to be on. So it seems like there's several instances of less than clear communication, where not a lot of accountability on that side of the table on what you're saying. So I'd like to know, what is the process for doing RFPs for the township engineer? When was the last time Dan Slagle was benchmarked versus his peer group from a competency perspective, from a fee perspective? He's been the township engineer since 1982, which was before my wife was born. So I would hope the township has addressed those needs since then. So what is that procedure? How is that being done? It seems to me like it's just not. And that seems very troubling to me. In the Richmond community, I admit my sample size is small. I've only lived in Indiana Township for a few years. But my experience with Mr. Slagle has been pretty underwhelming. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments?
Hi there, Steve Funk, 1900 Fox Chapel Road. One question I have is for the comprehensive plan, who's helping out with the cost benefit analysis?
The comprehensive plan or the PRD?
The comprehensive plan, in order to write about, are the PRDs going to be beneficial for us?
Two different things.
They're two different things?
PRD ordinance and comprehensive plan, two separate issues being addressed.
I think Mr. Slagle prepared the cost benefit analysis to kind of brief the planning commission. I think that grew a little bit out of, was that August? And we gave direction to the planning commission. Paul and I had it, we took a while to get 5 or 6 items down of what we were looking for. But one of those was a cost benefit analysis, so I think that's where the work that Mr. Slagle shared with the planning commission at the last meeting came from. I think that's my
So what I'd like to say is, I'd like to help out with that. I've got a lot of experience with modeling and numbers. That's kind of like what I do for a living. So I'm just willing to, help out the community where I can. One thing that has me a little concerned, I've looked at some of the sale prices at Hidden Falls. they're upwards of like $600,000-$700,000. But if you look on the county website, the assessed price is almost half. So if we're doing this cost benefit analysis, I also want to make sure we're using the right numbers, that we're also looking at the school district, because I have a kid coming in July. I don't want my kid learning in a trailer at Fairview because there's not enough space for them because they're trying to rebuild that school in the next 5 years. So I have some skin in the game. I know there's a lot of young people that have skin in the game, and we want to work together to make sure that our kids have a place to learn. So, thank you.
Had reached out, I don't know, Larry, I don't know if I called you. When the paving was done, we have some small potholes in the cul-de-sac in front of my house. I reached out before winter so that could be fixed prior to winter. We had a very mild winter. That has not been taken care of. So if you're paying the paving company, they have not come back and repaired that. Quickly, also, I've talked to Dan. We put in a new street light. It is LED lights. My whole house is lit up. It's saving me electricity because I turn on no lights during the middle of the night. It's so lit up. We had a baffle on it before. Duquesne Lights said it wasn't an official baffle, so therefore they won't pay for it. I reached out to Dan. The township won't pay for it either because if we pay for mine, then we gotta pay for everybody. We put in a huge patio with a fire pit and really can't use it because it is so bright. I have pictures on my phone at 3 o'clock in the morning of how lit up my house is on the inside. So I don't know who to talk to about that, but I just want you to know the cul-de-sac needs fixed. Something needs to be done with the light. Also, I talked to Larry.
One second. Hey, Jeff, we do a light, remember what we did with can we just do a light test to see how far the spill is?
Oh, that would be great. I didn't know you could even do that.
Because there is an ordinance.
Oh,
that
that
says
is
that you have
great.
to have, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna pass.
But that's usually related from private property.
It's not on streetlights.
It's not on street.
Oh,
Okay.
thanks,
Who
Paul.
owns the street light?
Duquesne Light.
Hands are a little bit tied.
Shit. Oh, sorry.
But at least
Oops.
at least we'll look at it and let them know that
Thank
they're out
you.
of compliance, whether or not, what they do with it.
I'll make you coffee at 3 in the morning. You wanna come over?
I can take a ride up.
Okay.
Dan, do you have a contact of anybody at Duquesne Light I can bother? for this?
Yes, Dan and I both talked to
You
him.
don't want to.
I don't know,
Do you have
I
his
enjoy
name?
talking
I
to
have it way back. I'd have to take me a while to dig for it. If you could provide Jonathan with the name, I would be grateful.
why not?
Thanks, Jonathan.
more squeaky
And one more thing, I have 2 seconds.
It's okay,
Yeah.
you were answering a couple of questions.
I talked to Larry because the plow truck broke a couple pickets of my brand new fence, and so I mentioned to Larry. Unfortunately, the guys probably didn't know it, but they didn't call me. I found it, and there was clear evidence that it was the plow truck. So I mentioned it to Dan today. So I guess I don't know how that works. I mean, I'm willing to paint some pickets and put it up myself if you'd fix the light. I mean, I'll barter for.
Let's make a deal.
Yeah, let's make a deal. That's all I have. So I don't know.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor, if I could just say something?
Yes, please.
So, the road that you're talking about is Pine Creek?
Yes.
Okay, so this was done by People's Natural Gas, fixing gas.
You know,
This is
I'm not sure. Because they came in and paved everything when they put in, what did they put in, Linda? I don't.
Let me get a couple more words in.
Okay.
So the Trusco paving project that we did, that they approved the final estimate on.
Yeah.
2 separate issues.
Okay.
This was a utility company coming back in and
Yes.
doing some modifications to the gas line.
Correct.
What we made them do, because of how much they destroyed our roads, we made them pave the entire cul-de-sac. So this was the paving company from Peoples.
There was a second company that came in.
2 separate projects.
Okay, I didn't know.
So
I just
don't-
wanted to say, don't send a check if that's who needs to come and fix
Well-
this, but I don't know who fixes it.
I'm just trying to tell you, so don't come in with it. But I will get a hold of Peoples.
Okay.
They have a very bad habit of coming in, and what I call just, cutting whatever they want.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the
we're
first
trying-
paving company did a phenomenal job. This job, not so good.
So the first paving company mean, was it, this was from a couple of years ago?
I don't know, they paved our entire street, it was beautiful, and then a month later,
So,
yeah.
The gas company.
so the first one
Month after they were
was the
built.
paving company that we put out for bid, which would have been Young.
Yeah, they were phenomenal,
Okay, thank you. And that was the ones that we monitored, made sure that they didn't. put-
yes.
And just for your information, Tom Aldo, my school teacher, was the inspector on that job, just so you know.
Oh, nice, okay.
That's okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was put in there. But the group that comes in later was People's Natural Gas. And that's someone that we're trying to rein in a little bit. I mean,
Thank
obviously
you.
they have to fix the gas lines. Everybody knows what happened with Crescent Township and what happens with gas companies that don't repair their gas lines, which is a tragedy. So we're trying to work with the utility company, but yet make sure that our roads are put back the way that they destroyed them. So I will get a hold of them, and if I understand how, can you give me a rough idea how big this pothole is?
They're small now, I mean, now is an easy fix. I mean, the one is probably that big, I mean, it's not that big, they're small, but,
I've seen it, or I've been out to it.
okay,
So I've seen it.
yeah.
So
But
it's
it would be
about the
nice to
same.
fix it early before we gotta replace the whole cul-de-sac or,
That's okay, but just for everybody's record,
Yes, it's
it's
small.
about the size of a baseball.
no, it's bigger than that now. I mean, there's two spots, one's baseball, one's, you know,
I'll get a hold of People's Natural.
okay.
Thank you.
Emily Gowans, 54 Richland Drive. I wanted to thank Mr. Funk for putting his hand up to help with the cost benefit analysis. I think it would be great, and I know we would all really appreciate to see some citizen involvement in some activities like that, so really hopeful that he can be involved. Someone else who really wants to be involved in that analysis specifically, but also more broadly, would be our newly elected auditor. In a conversation with Brenda Smiller, who was elected back in November, she's indicated that she hasn't been able to get access to any financial information in order to really begin auditing. So I guess as a citizen, my question would be, who's responsible for onboarding and providing access to our elected auditor?
Dan,
We
you wanna
don't.
take that?
We don't onboard newly elected.
In the years that the township has a CPA firm do the audit, the elected auditors do not audit. And that's what's been
Sorry, they don't audit.
Yeah, that's under the second,
the code, yeah.
So when would they begin auditing for the?
The audit, when you have an appointed auditor, the appointed auditor, takes that role, and the elected auditors don't have a role in that process. They don't have an auditing function.
I'm sorry, an auditor doesn't have an auditing function.
You're correct, yes. The elected auditors do not have an auditing function.
Do they have any right to access information?
Same information as anyone in the public. They do a right to know request.
Just for clarity, what is the function then of the auditor we elect? Why do we elect one?
That's just the nature of the position. It's not uncommon. There's a handful of communities. A lot of home rule communities have totally eliminated the elected auditor position. Township has not done that, so it exists, but it has no auditing.
It has no function.
Correct.
But that's not a decision of Indiana Township, that's.
Well, not right now. I mean,
No,
when the home rule
effectively,
chart, when
it's a
the
home rule.
optional plan was created, it could have potentially been eliminated. That's certainly not a supervisor issue, but it does, whether you have an auditor or you don't, when you appoint an elected auditor, that's their role. And anytime you have any type of, bonds and issues, that's typically a requirement. They require a CPA firm to do those audits.
Every year.
They don't treat it, because, years ago, right, you would have, I don't know anything about this current elected auditor, mind you, but in years past, you would have potentially 3 people that have no auditing, no educational background, no auditing background at all, and they get elected, and
Well, in this
banks-
came, she's a director of
Yeah,
finance.
I understand, but that's, her qualifications are, that's what I'm saying, it's irrelevant. It's by statute and by rule, when you appoint elected, when you appoint an auditor, the function of the elected auditor no longer exists. It's the law.
Thank you.
So, to answer her question then, we have an auditor that's elected, but they don't have any auditing business. Do they do any business?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of, okay, so they
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, I would study the statute, but in all the communities I've represented, in all the places I've seen that, I've never seen an elected auditor do anything with it was I'm unaware of any function that they serve.
I guess just one more question then, since I still have a minute. Since they are elected, do they have additional access to information?
They do not.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, Betty Owens, 109 Verna Drive. I have a couple questions about the ADA sidewalks and fishing pier. I'm glad to see them going in. I think it's important that we have access to the things that are in our community. I am speaking. Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just curious, before those projects were taken under, how many people requested them?
A fishing pier? We
The
have numerous
fishing pier
requests for the
and the
ADA
sidewalks.
improvements.
Yes,
I've
do you
had
have some
numerous requests throughout
documentation
town
for that?
For the ADA improvements. I actually have specific residents who sought after those, that what's little's there now
Mhm.
to be done in that access road that goes down to that.
Yeah. Could you give me a number?
Could I give you a number?
Yes, how many residents asked for the ADA sidewalk access and this
I'd
fishing
have
pier?
to look at how many, but I do know that
Like
I've
a
had that
ballpark.
request. I've actually had the thanks whenever we did do the project from.
Yeah,
and
I mean, I would think
I'm
so,
very
'cause
grateful for
they're
having that
important
ability
projects.
to access.
Right,
And
but
those-
how, like a ballpark, and we were talking like 1 or 2, 20, 30, 100,
It's gonna be a
1,000?
handful, but it's not a large number that requested it.
So maybe 5.
I'd have to look, I don't know. Okay.
Okay, so about, we're gonna say about 5. And same for the fishing pier? I mean, this is citizens' comment, right? I can ask about anything,
It's
can't I?
for comments, yes.
Yeah, okay. Is that about the same for the fishing pier?
I'm not aware of any direct asks for an ADA fishing pier.
Okay. I do think these projects, just to be clear, are extremely important. I think it's important for all citizens to have access to the things that are in our community, and especially people who have needed accommodations. I think it's very important. So the reason why this applies is because ADA access was asked for with these video live streaming. And
Didn't I just say that we were not gonna comment on anything to do with live streaming because of anticipated litigation? Someone filed a complaint against us and we have to wait until that complaint is resolved before we can make any comments.
She can comment.
She can
I'm
talk,
gonna-
but she can't
I'm
ask
cautious
us
with
questions.
words.
I just wanted her to know that.
Go on.
I don't need you to respond. So I'm glad to hear that that's the case, because we had more than 5 people request ADA access for a video live streaming.
Was
And
that from somebody with disabilities?
yes, somebody with health disabilities, there were multiple people on multiple occasions. I have letters, copies of the letters that were sent to ask for ADA accommodation. There were phone calls that were made as well. Those folks said, I called and asked for these accommodations, and they were denied by your vote. And by a vote that was not even necessary, because these are administrative types of things, just like the money that was put aside to update the hardware. I don't think that came to a vote here. No, I mean, these are just reasonable kinds of accommodations. So, I just wanted to bring that back up. This is not just people sitting in the audience or not being able to sit in the audience and like banging a loud gong. There's real reasons why people want this kind of access, because they can't be here in person. They can't walk through those doors and be face to face and nose to nose as you so very much want them to be. But we've seen, even when they are, you disregard them. So you can't have it both ways. But in this case, it's important that we as a township make reasonable accommodations for people who are asking for those accommodations. And it doesn't need to be a bunch of people. It doesn't even have to be more than one person making the accommodation in order that it be made. You said there wasn't enough interest. 100 people filled out that survey to ask for video live streaming, and I added it up that it took about 6 minutes to fill out that survey. That means that 10 hours of our citizens' time were put to coming here and asking for that. That's longer than we have to stand up here and make comment. And you wouldn't want to sit through a 10-hour meeting while all of those 100 people came up and asked for that accommodation. But that's the amount of time that was put into asking for that, and you still said no.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any more comments? Seeing none,
Make a motion to adjourn.
do I have a second?
Prior to adjournment, I just wanted to thank our 2 new board members for spending your time here, working on municipal matters. Appreciate that.
Next is for 5.
I will second for adjournment.
Okay, there's a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, a second by Supervisor Herwick to adjourn the meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
That's a great idea.
I'll see you. Yeah, oh yeah. I actually, yeah, I'm sure we'll see everybody, yeah. I've done it, so I imagine sorry. Oh, I think it's great. I mean, and you need to do it. I think there's gonna be other new people to fill in. Yeah. Let that be the one. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's it. Thank you.